is 10x engineer a myth, or is it something that someone could actually achieve as an engineer? And if you've never heard this term 10x engineer before, I didn't either. The first time I ever heard this term was when I first moved to Silicon Valley, and I was working at a it was like an early stage Series B startup, and then I was working. I pulled a late night that night, and then my CEO was also pulling up a late night, and he's just basically like, if you at this rate, like if you keep working like that, you're gonna become a 10x engineer. I thought about it, I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool term. Like that sounds like something you want to achieve, right? And then after I heard 10x engineer, essentially what 10x engineer means is a 10x engineer is a software engineer who is 10 times more productive than the average engineer. So take the average engineer, and a 10x engineer is someone who's just 10 times more productive than like the average engineer. Um, and for some reason, 10x engineering, like people like debate if this is even possible. They're saying that it's not really possible for someone to be a 10x engineer, and that's kind of a myth. Um, like, if you just look up 10x engineer here, you'll see, like, is it really possible to be a 10x engineer? This one says, like, the 10x programmer myth. Like, and you just get into conversations in the Bay Area of people. Well, that's the only place I've worked. So people are always like, no, it's not possible to be a 10x engineer. I don't know if they're just trying to be nice, but I think you can be a 10x. I think it's very, very, like, very possible to be 10 times better than the average engineer. You can even be 100 times better than the average engineer. You can be like even way more than 100 times better than the average engineer. Maybe a 5,000 times better. You could be a 5,000x engineer. And yeah, like for example, when I used to play basketball for when I was growing up, and no matter how hard is Kevin Durant 10 times better than me? He's way more than 10 times better than me at basketball. And I was practicing basketball and training basketball since I was a young kid. And no matter what I can do, he's still going to be like at least 500 times X better than me. So it's possible to be 10X more productive than the average engineer. I don't know why it's debated, but yeah, I pretty much this is just a random thought that came to my head. You could be a 10X engineer, you could be a 100X engineer, you could be like a 100,000X engineer, compared to some people. And that's not to scare anyone off, to be like there's people out there that's going to be 100 times better. It's more, I would say it's more just for motivational purposes. Like when you see someone so good at their craft, you know that there's just room for you to improve, and like there's no limit to where you can take it. I feel like with things like basketball, like your height kind of plays a factor, but I feel like with coding or software engineering, there's less of a ceiling physically. Maybe there's one mentally. I don't know if they did studies on that, but I feel like I did a video on natural talent versus hard work. I feel like if you just put in the hard work, you can be 10 times better, like 10x better than the average engineer. You can get 100x better than the average engineer. You can build a feature in a week that someone will take a year to build. Honestly, I've seen that. Like I've seen people push out code and feature or a project so fast, and I mean these projects are so complicated that the average engineer couldn't even solve that project. So does that make them 10x or 100x better than that engineer because they're able to pump out projects that like an average engineer can't even make? I feel like that's even more than 10x. That's like, I mean, you can't even compare it. There's just no compare, like there's no magnitude of that. Like if someone can't even get that project out, even if they spent 5 years Maybe they have to go back to school in order to solve a project like that. But then somebody is able to do it in like less than a year. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I mean, like you can be 10x better than someone like someone. Yeah, I don't know. That let me know what your thoughts are on 10x engineering. Is this thing real? I think it's real. I mean, if you think it's fake, just let me know why in the comments. But yeah, I don't know why people debate this. If you are an engineer, um, I don't know. Maybe the new term that kids are gonna be saying these days is like cracked engineer. Can you be a cracked engineer? I think cracked engineer is way easier than 10x engineer. Cracked engineer probably would just be like you just are good and people think you're good. But 10x means like, okay, look at the average person at your company. Can you pump out 10 times more output, 10 times drive 10 times more impact than the average engineer? I mean, why is that fake? Why do people think that's fake? I'm just confused. So let me know in the comments. Yeah, I only heard of this term 3 years ago, but after I heard it, I was like, I want to be a 10x engineer, and I'm gonna do what it takes to be a 10x engineer. So yeah, cool. Hope like if y'all never heard that term, hope you learned something, and let me know in your comments if it's even possible to be a 10x engineer or not. See you in the next video.